The Resource Sustainability Bill will, for the first time, put in place a systems-level approach that mandates key responsibilities to enable reuse and recycling nationwide. This will complement and support the voluntary efforts of our people and private sectors. The bill will bring our regulatory framework upstream. It will send economic signals to producers such as manufacturers and importers to take into account the cost of environmental externalities. It also encourages innovation and the redesigning of products that require less materials, last longer, and are more easily recycled. The regulatory framework will also fund the recovery and aggregation of useful materials such as metals from e-waste, which makes recycling more viable. We will target the 3 priority waste streams of electrical and electronic waste, or e-waste, packaging waste, including plastics, and food waste. Let me explain why we are focusing on these 3 waste streams. E-waste generation is growing exponentially with rising affluence. Singapore generates about 60,000 tons of e-waste annually, yet very little is recycled. This translates to each person throwing away the equivalent of 6 mobile phones every month. Such waste may contain heavy metals and other hazardous substances, and improper disposal may lead to the contamination of our environment and harm public health. Precious metals like gold are also being thrown away. We will introduce the Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR, approach to e-waste by 2021 to ensure the proper handling and extraction of resources from e-waste. This will mandate producers of covered electrical and electronic equipment, or EEE, to be responsible for the collection and proper treatment of their e-waste. All producers of covered EEE will need to register with NEA. Producers which exceed the prescribed threshold will need to join the Producer Responsibility Scheme, or PRS, and finance the collection and recycling of e-waste. In return, the PRS operator will be responsible for meeting e-waste collection targets set by NEA. To minimize the regulatory impact on smaller players, we have set thresholds to exempt smaller producers, which supply about 10% of the consumer products that are put to market in Singapore by weight, from joining the PRS. This means that producers of 90% of the consumer products put to market in Singapore will be subjected to the EPR framework. We will monitor the implementation of the EPR framework and ensure that these thresholds remain relevant. The next priority waste stream is packaging waste, including plastics. We generate large amounts of this, around a third of the total domestic waste disposed of in Singapore. Almost all of this packaging material is incinerated. This ensures that the environmental impacts are managed effectively and our packaging, including plastics, do not end up in the sea, mangling creatures such as cute baby dugongs in Thailand. However, we ought to do more to reduce and recycle packaging. External forces are also changing the economics of the recycling industry. China's ban on the import of plastic waste has shifted the trade patterns of plastic recyclables. Excuse me. As a result, our plastics recycling rate, which hovered around 10%, dropped to 4% in 2018. We cannot continue with business as usual. We can and must do more to better manage packaging, including plastics. As a start, next year, we will implement mandatory reporting of packaging data, as well as plans to reduce, reuse, or recycle packaging, including plastics. The requirements will apply for a start to companies with an annual turnover of over $10 million. This will cover approximately 4,500 medium and large enterprises in Singapore who put packaging on the market. Micro and small enterprises will be exempted. This reporting will focus management attention on the packaging that companies are placing on the market and spur reduction efforts that will save them costs. This will lay the ground for an EPR framework for packaging waste, which will be put in place no later than 2025, if not earlier. Third, food waste is a major waste stream with high generation tonnage and low recycling rates. In 2018, we generated 763,000 tons of food waste. Of this, only 17% was recycled. From 2024, we will make it mandatory for the owners and occupiers of commercial and industrial premises which generate large amounts of food waste to segregate their food waste for treatment. We will also require owners and occupiers of new buildings which are expected to be large food waste generators to treat food waste on site. In preparation for this, we will require developers of new buildings which are expected to be large food waste generators to make provisions for on-site treatment of food waste in development plans submitted from 2021. These new requirements will ensure that food waste from large food waste generators is diverted for treatment or converted into useful products such as compost and animal feed instead of being incinerated. This will also reduce odor and pest nuisance at the premise and reduce the contamination of recyclables by food waste, allowing for greater resource recovery. We will complement the regulatory frameworks with other measures. These include educational campaigns, co-creation efforts with the community, and grants to support ground-up initiatives. For example, NEA launched the Say Yes to Waste Less campaign in June as part of the Year Towards Zero Waste movement to reduce the excessive consumption of disposables and packaging and encourage the use of reusables. NEA has also launched the Towards Zero Waste grant to support individuals, interest groups, NGOs, grassroots organizations, and corporations to initiate or scale up waste reduction and recycling initiatives. A vibrant zero-waste ecosystem will encourage our citizens to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Our regulatory measures will be key in incentivizing producers to play an active role in building this zero-waste ecosystem with us.